Very good evening and welcome to this edition of The Frontline. My name is Charles Odongtho. The Frontliners are here, the guests are already seated, but let's first start with the Frontline trigger.
This is the climax of all these days of rejoicing, because here at midnight, Uganda's independence will formally begin.
On the 9th of October, the nation will be celebrating 56 years of self-determination. 56 years since Ugandans took charge of their own affairs. The 56 years have been quite a journey. On the political front, the nation has seen leaders come and go and one stay for over 3 decades.
That I will preserve and defend the Constitution.
And truly exercise, do solemnly swear.
That I will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. So help me God.
The nation has also transitioned back to multi-party politics, with political intolerance increasingly taking shape. From the blows in Parliament to the showdown on the streets, the nation has certainly registered concerns.
And indeed, effort has been made to try and cause actual conflict within the opposition forces, which then would be the launch pad for the assassinations. So that if an impression has been created in the public that I am at loggerheads with the Lord Mayor here, then either of us can be killed and the other arrested for the other's death. And this, thank our God, nearly happened in Arua. Because again, for some time there had been a choreography campaign to suggest that there was actually a conflict between my brother Kyagulanyi and myself. And, because of the campaigns that were around, they were creating it as if there is, war. In fact, I think one of the headlines in one of the newspapers presented it as that. I think they said Bobby Wine goes to kill Besigye or something like that. This is the, and within our own supporters, they indeed infiltrate people to perpetuate that scheme, to start causing friction and possibly to lead to actual conflict, which then, once it happens, then they strike. And what was supposed to happen in Arua was to kill Honorable Kyagulanyi and arrest Besigye immediately for his death. And a lot of other things had been put in place, which we are aware of, along that plan. Who the people Besigye was using would be, and so on. They would arrest, many people. It was a fairly comprehensive plan. They had even had a group that would attack my home from here and so on and so forth. As I have said, fortunately, there is a God above.
It appears that Mr. Besigye, having not obtained visibility in the last 2 months, following the events from the Arua by-elections, he's simply thirsty of cheap media publicity. Mr. Besigye, I think, is missing the fact that he was not part of those arrested in Arua.
On the security front, concerns have emerged in the recent days, a number of murders and high-profile assassinations as well. The economy is soldering on with a promise of a journey to middle-income status by 2020. What about our social fabrics? Do they still hold us together as a nation? What are our shared values? Are there things that bind us as a nation and skip through the partisan lines? This is NBS Frontline.
Welcome back from that Frontline trigger. And as I said, the guests are already here, the frontliners. Let me start with the gentleman on my extreme left, Honorable Chairman Norbert Mao. He's a frontliner, but also the DP President General. You're most welcome back to the frontline.
Thank you, Charles.
Mr. Ofono Opondo, next to him. Ofono Opondo is the executive director of the Uganda Media Center, a frontliner. Welcome back.
Good.
The Honorable, did you say good? The Honorable Dr. Chris Baryomuzi, some people say Doctor, is a minister, MP for Kinkizi East, minister in charge of housing. You're most welcome to the frontline. Back.
Thank you very much, and good evening, viewers.
Honorable Odonga Oto Samuel, he is the MP for Aru County in Acholi sub-region.
It's my pleasure.
I like the kitenge tie. It looks different.
You're welcome.
So colored.
It's so colored.
Digital migration.
I'm sipping.
That's for another day. The Honorable Lord Mayor of Kampala, Honorable Erias Lukwago, you're most welcome back to the front line.
Thank you, and I salute all the panelists here. Good evening, viewers.
Good evening. And last but not least, my next neighbor, immediate neighbor, actually, the Honorable Proscovia Salam Musomba. She is the vice chairman of the FDC party. You're most welcome back.
Thank you very much, Charles. Nice to have you back.
Good. I'm happy to be back too. We are going to be looking at the gains and challenges of Uganda at 56 next week on Tuesday, I think. Ofono Opondo will be telling us where they will. I think it is in Chotera, but will be telling us the details of the independence celebrations coming on Tuesday. And Uganda is at 56. Some people say we haven't seen the independence. Some people say it started well, but then it faltered along the way. For some 24 years, 9 presidents, and then for the other 30 plus years, 1 president. We will be looking at all that. I don't have any specific order today to start from. Let me start from Ofono Opondo today. Let me start from you as a frontliner and a government spokesperson. When you are celebrating or telling us about independence at 56, what do you want us to believe, like next week?
Well, thank you, Charles, and our viewers. First of all, it's not just saying. It is a fact. Uganda is celebrating, commemorating, remembrance the 56th year of our independence since we took over by ourselves from British colonial rule, 1962. The theme will be standing tall, celebrating 56 years.
Standing tall.
Standing tall, meaning that we have survived drowning. This is our hope as a government. This is how we see it. We have survived drowning, and there are achievements that we have registered, challenges, mistakes notwithstanding, and that those achievements are worth celebrating, but also looking at where we need improvement, where we need strengthening, so that we build hope among Ugandans that even when we are facing adversities, we can overcome, especially if we collectively fall in the same direction.
Okay.
So the main celebration will be Kasasa Sub-County Grounds, the new Shotera district.
Okay. Chairman Mao, I know that, by the way, I think that on this table, hardly any one of us here was born by the time we got independence.
You are wrong.
I'm wrong, eh?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
I pray to be forgiven. Because I checked the last time we were celebrating Mao's birthday was 52, and I thought that no one has crossed into 56
I haven't
yet.
reached 52.
Oh, you haven't yet? It was 51.
No, it was 50, the one we celebrated.
Okay, thank you. Chairman Mao, when you recall independence, and we are talking about now 50 plus years, 56, are you satisfied with what we have achieved as a country? What is lacking? What is missing? What can be done better?
Leadership. A story is told that God was distributing wealth all around the world, gave a lot of minerals, South Africa, diamonds, Botswana, gave us also in Uganda, went to Russia, America, Canada. And when God reached Congo, he declared to the angels that he was exhausted. So he decided to leave the entire balance in Congo. And then the angels were upset and they said, you know, God, this is not fair. How can you leave so much wealth to one country? And God said, you think this is a blessing? Just wait and see the kind of leaders I'll give them. This is the situation in Uganda. Uganda is a very, very blessed country. We have a lot of resources. We are a beautiful country. We have got wonderful people. All those who come here think Ugandans are the most friendly people. But we have had this problem of leadership. And it's about leaders who don't want to be accountable, leaders who don't want to lean on the people, but rather on guns, leaders who want to use coercion rather than persuasion. Above all, leaders who want to be monarchs, who think that leading is their birthright rather than a mandate to serve. Therefore, Uganda's journey since independence has been a journey of broken promises. And we just have to realize that our attempts at building national consensus have been in fits and starts, and citizens have been frustrated. I mean, we have tried everything except the right thing. Anyway, they say people eventually will do the right thing, but not before trying everything else. So we have imprisoned our opponents, we have tortured people, we have committed mass murder, genocide, we have rigged elections, we have bribed, everything has been tried in Uganda, except a genuine attempt to reconstruct the country based on a new consensus. Okay. I hope this independence will start that process of reflection.
Okay. Dr. Barimunsi, do you broken promises, and you have been 30 years plus of that period, is that what you associate with, or you think that the challenges are from the outside? Maybe they are not from within. The challenges can actually be even overcome.
Well, if you compare the 56 years of Uganda to human life, by the time somebody is 56, he's an adult, and he's starting to grow some gray hair, and by the time you attain 56 years of age, you have passed through a lot. It means you have survived infant mortality, you have survived the under 5 mortality, you have survived adolescent mortality, and you have reached that age. And we want to congratulate Uganda But also, it is true that by the time you attain the age of 56, you have passed through highs and lows. It's not a straight journey. That's what we go through in human development, human life. Similarly, also countries like Uganda go through all that. So from 62 to 2018 now, it has been a journey of challenges, but also of areas where progress has been realized. If you compare, for instance, the first 24 years after independence, where we changed leaders 9 times, again, we also know the state almost reached a collapsing level. Uganda almost became a failed state when you look at the benchmarks which you use to measure. But in the last 30 years, despite the challenges we have faced, there is visible progress, there is measurable progress, especially when you look at the quality of life, which can be measured. I think there is a great improvement, challenges notwithstanding, and I think Uganda is making very impressive progress, and we shall continue to improve as a country and move on.
Okay. Honorable Dongauto, your neighbor to your left says that despite challenges, that progress has been made. Are you convinced with the progress thus far made? Are they genuine? Are the challenges genuine? Are they challenges that you expect within any human life, if we allude to Uganda as a life?
I, first of all, appreciate the worldview of my good colleague, Dr. Chris. I would not agree with him so much, because if this was a gynecology class, probably he would be an authority. I think on the issue, you know, I know you're a gynecologist, and that is the area where you are of so much help. But these things of lives of Ugandans, people are not doing very well. People are not doing very well. People are sharpening knives for a living. People are gambling for a living. People are picking things in the dustbin. We cannot talk of the general livelihood of Ugandans. A few people are doing very well. They can wear the most expensive perfumes, the latest shoes, the latest fashion trends. But you go deep down to, you know, our mothers are buying second-hand bras, second-hand underpants. We are not doing well. The AGOA factories collapse. The economy is taken over by foreigners. The banking industry, foreigners. Manufacturers of beers, foreigners. DSTV, foreigners. Internet, foreigners. Even religion lately, foreigners. So I would think, from an ideological perspective, that we need to address 2 issues as part of challenges. One is population growth. Even if we make Norbert Mao the president tomorrow, we will still fail collectively. Because Uganda, the rate at which the population is exploding, according to my calculations of today, we produce 4,384 Ugandans every day. Now, even the new Lukwago hospital.
Your calculation?
No, according to the official statistics,
official
1.6 million people per year. That means 4,380 daily.
Granted.
Now, we need a proactive campaign on population and birth controls. Because the streets will wear down, Lukwago Hospital will wear down, all the schools the Lord Mayor is commissioning within KCCA, the population explosion is a little too much. And this one is an ideological issue. At one time, our president, Museveni, said there is nothing wrong with population growth because it is increased consumption. I think that is very dangerous. As a country, we need to have fresh debates on how to curb the rates at which the population is growing.
So in your view, the biggest problem we have since independence is population growth not matching the magnitude of development or progress.
That is what you see, even in a family, if you have like 7 wives and 18 children with the same facilities and 1 breadwinner, you are bound to fail. So whoever wants to be the president in the next 10, 20, 30 years, if we don't start the debate on population growth, if we don't go to the churches and make the bishops, the caddies, start talking to people about the expanding of Uganda's population, I can bet definitely every president, one after another, would fail. Secondly, and importantly, the issue of ethnicity. Our forefathers President Obote and others, they deliberately structured Uganda that education was cut across the country. My late father, Anachori, studied in St. Leo's, Fort Portal. There are people from Ankole who studied in Sir Samuel Becker, Sir Tito Winyi, Kabalega. There was a deliberate effort to make Ugandans traverse the country and learn other people's culture. Their hope was that in 56 years, we would be almost one country.
Okay.
But the system has kind of changed, where you study from nursery to the university in your village. You don't appreciate other cultures. So we are seeing a wider ethnic division more than the ethnic fusion our forefathers saw at 1962.
Okay. Honorable Erias Lukwago, you had a cosmopolitan, the most cosmopolitan geography, actually, being the capital city. And Chairman Mao says the biggest problem in his view is leadership. Odonga Oto says it is population growth. In your view, what is the biggest problem or the biggest challenge, if you like, that we have as a country right now? Or do you agree with some of the issues they have said?
Well, I entirely agree with my brothers, but I would say the biggest challenge we are facing is the leadership crisis since independence. Actually, I have a feeling it's not yet Uhuru. We are yet to get independence.
We haven't got it?
We have not got independence because you have to dissect the full import.
Are the Bariomusis and Ofono Pondos part of the colonialists extended?
These are... they are in that mode of the colonials, certainly, because actually the same powers that the colonialists enjoyed at that time, I see no difference.
You are the Lord Mayor. That's a colonial title.
Anyway.
He would be a commissioner if it was under the colonialists.
You see, if you listen to
don't accept to be
imperial title. Lord Mayor is an imperial title.
Well, what I should say,
don't accept to be diverted by Lord Mayor, don't accept.
Actually, I would prefer the colonialists to the current system, because with them there was no pretense. They were very clear. They not hoodwink Ugandans that you have self-determination, self-rule. What they did, they came here in the second half of the 19th century, imposed their rule here. All decisions were then taken in London. They just come here, they hand them down to us, impose them on us, the ordinances, the decrees, the orders, and everything. There was no pretense. So there was nothing like hoodwinking Ugandans, that you can always have some say on their destiny. Nothing of the sort. What they did at independence, what they call independence, is to hand over the instruments of power to proxies of Western capitals, to hand over to a cabal of leaders. Yes, some of them were genuine. They were genuinely fighting for independence. I should give them credit. But by and large, they faltered and failed to put in place systems that would guarantee destiny of the people destiny of this country being in the hands of the people. So as we talk right now, Ugandans have no control over their destiny. That explains the challenges highlighted by my brother here, Honorable Norbert Mao. The journey of broken promises, a bumpy journey of 65 years, rather 56 years, where you have leaders, now 10 leaders, all of them governing by the barrel of the gun. It's absurd that 56 years of independence, we have not had orderly succession to power. That, to me, for me, like you said, I'm a child of independence. I wasn't here during colonial days. But you can imagine, ever since I was born, I've never seen one leader handing over power to another freely, willingly, within the purview of the Constitution.
Okay.
Each regime has come with its own constitution. You can imagine a country. Let me give you parallels. America got its independence in 1776. And I think they wrote their constitution way back in 1778, over 200 years ago. Yes, they have had amendment, but it's one constitution. Just count how many constitutions we have had. In 1962, constitution. 66, a constitution. 67, another constitution. Now, you come to 70s, we didn't have a constitution at all at that time. I think you could say Amin was the constitution himself. Then you come to this regime, they write another constitution. So which country is that? Okay. Each regime coming with its own constitution. Okay. That's a tragedy.
Okay, a tragedy. Honorable Salam, take it from whichever angle, but I want you to start getting us into, if there are these challenges that we have all agreed exist, can they be overcome? Is there hope that there is some cause that we can fight for and return to what we expected?
Well, for me, I would consider Uganda to be my elder sister, because I'm 1 year younger than Uganda. At 55.
You don't look.
I am 55. Happily 55.
Sweet 55.
Yes, sweet 55.
OO is always available to give you the appropriate words. I know.
Accolades are just
I know.
Ask him what he wants.
I don't know what he wants. But anyway, for me, the character of politics is what worries me since independence. The character of politics, the character of leadership, and the character of followership. The fact that we have failed to even galvanize ourselves into citizens. We are voting machines, we are stealing machines, we are all sorts of machines, except being citizens. And for me, that is the biggest failure I see of a country at 56. The fact that we have failed to transform ourselves into a citizenry that respects each other, that respects the Constitution, that is at peace with itself. Because this country is very restless. I don't know where OO lives, but this country is so restless. In the morning when you're driving to town, just watch guys in those big V8s and the Penconis. They are as restless as the guys walking on Clock Tower. And so you wonder who is at peace with themselves. The guys in the V8s know they have robbed, and the guys walking the streets are waiting for their chance, for their turn. That cannot be a country worth talking about. This is a country where we have first-generation leaders. Maybe apart from Ofono Opondo, whose father might have been a chief, but a tax collector or some clerk. The rest
was a chief, says a chief, county chief.
It's the only reason you're here. Yeah. If you hadn't been, you would be on the railroad, the one you picked and smelted. And so you have first-generation leaders who are gambling our future. President Museveni himself told you that in his entire lineage, there was no LC1. So he's also gambling our future with him learning on the job. He has nobody to learn from except the colonialists. Likewise, the guys who occupy big places, PSCs, you see them really not comfortable in the positions they have. So the failed leadership is largely because people have not changed the character of leadership, of service delivery, the character of deliverance, and they are not about truth. Okay. They are selfish, they are mean, and they're just better than nothing.
Okay. Dr. Baramusi, when your colleagues have talked of failed consensus, and one of the issues they are talking about is failed leadership. Do you think that this can be recovered? Even the issue of disunity, citizenry that is being alleged. First of all, do you agree with them? And if you disagree with them or agree with them, what is the way forward to ensure that we can gain that consensus, in your view?
Well, when you say failed leadership, means the opposition failing to capture power. Maybe they are right on that side. But I think since the 1995 Constitution, which, by the way, was put in place using a different mechanism like the previous constitutions, because the 1962 constitution was made in London. The 66 and 67, those are pigeonhole constitutions. But the 95 was done by Ugandans. So it is remarkably different from the other past constitutions.
So it's not a regime constitution?
No. It's a constitution for eternity. And under the constitution, we have established a constitutional framework where Ugandans participate to elect leaders who take decisions. And there is a consensus in a way which is generated through elections. For instance, we have had presidential, parliamentary, local council elections. We have just had LC elections. That's one platform where we gauge whether there is consensus in the country. For instance, you look at what happens from West Nile to Karamoja to Central to Chigezi and so forth and so forth. Yes, we are under multi-party dispensation. My colleagues say so because they belong to the opposition and they have not been elected into power. That's the decision of Ugandans. Nobody is imposing himself on the Ugandans. It is Ugandans who have an opportunity to choose leaders. So when you say failed leadership, what do you mean? Is it meaning the parties where you belong failing to access power? It is Ugandans deciding like that. So
Honorable,
there are challenges, yes.
The Lord Mayor is disagreeing with
yes,
you.
Yes.
No, I thought we were here to add value to this debate.
Yes,
but I'm afraid.
Yes.
I don't
have to share your view. I don't have to share your view. Similarly, you don't have to share mine. So can you listen, Lord Mayor? Yes. I am saying we are on a constitutional path. Challenges notwithstanding, but you cannot compare what is prevailing today with the chaos we had in the 60s, the 70s, and the early 80s. Now, Ugandans can determine who leads them every 5 years.
Okay. Lord Mayor, you have a right
see the
of
whole
response.
point. What would distinguish independence governments from the colonial rule is legitimacy. Question of legitimacy. Have we had legitimate governments in place since independence? Or we are having military rule? Convince me that we have had a single government that has come into power through the ballot. There was some semblance of elections in the 60s, which were boycotted by Uganda in 61, which was won by Ben Chiwanuka in 61. That was, yes, shortly. I mean, we were moving towards independence. Even after independence in 1962, we had that election, but it was also rigged. You go back and read the history of this country. So tell me one genuine election we have had since independence. So why I said, the reason why I said you are not different from the colonialists, because you've also imposed yourself on the people, on Ugandans. You do not enjoy the legitimate. You came into government through a fraudulent process since 1996. Actually, this government came by the bar of the gun. That is a given. And I think you don't dispute that. Nobody, you didn't sit anywhere to build the consensus, by all Ugandans and say, well, let's go to the bush. It's just a group of a few individuals who went to the bush, fought the government and came into power. Thereafter, you started the processes you were talking about, which resulted into the 1995 Constitution. Yes. You all recall what transpired in the CA. Actually, some people did not even sign that Constitution. You are aware of that. There were disputes, there were contradictions, there were challenges, there were controversies, which were never resolved. But that notwithstanding, the product that came out of that process, fraud as it was, at least Ugandans were ready to embrace it. But all the safety measures we are doing, because the challenges we have had, is orderly succession to power. And the unique future of this Constitution was about that. For my training as a lawyer, we have had this animal which has haunted Ugandans for a long time in our constitutional history. I think those of you who have studied the history of this country, that Kersenian theory, which has disturbed us. that once a new order has toppled the old one, of course it becomes a constitutional order. We wanted to do away with that. It is still with us up to now.
Did you use the gun to become road mayor of Kampala?
But what I'm saying, look here. Look at the provisions of Article 4 of the Constitution, Article 1, Clause 4. Consent, government by the consent of the people. So, in the broader framework we are talking about, this NRM government has not organized a free and fair election. You have all the judgments of court which have been passed since 2001, that all these elections have been. So
okay.
You will always ask those questions.
That's the usual rhetoric.
Okay, let me bring the question to your colleagues. Honorable Odongaoto, granted there are challenges like the Lord Mayor enumerates that, you know, there is an issue, a question of legitimacy, and he refers to elections. Can we have a 100% consensus in any democratic environment? Is it even possible? And if it is not possible, as I know it is not, what then should be the consensus that we can really, you know, talk about and say, we agree, let's move forward. We have lost, we have won, let's move forward until another 5 years. How do we do it,
you see,
as a country?
There are times when you are completely naked, it is useless to try to cover your private part with your hands, because some people may just be interested in looking at your thighs, not necessarily private parts. So this government is naked. What Dr. Chris Barumos is doing is trying to cover a few parts which is not of interest to the viewers.
Which ones do you want to look at?
And the onlookers. So once you are naked, just accept you are naked and look for the nearest, probably pit latrine, other than trying to fidget in the streets that you are trying to cover certain parts of your body. You know. So we should accept that there is a big problem in this country. The whole country is not at peace with itself. The safety nets we put in the Constitution have been removed.
Which are?
Term limits, that you be a president for 2 terms, 10 years and go home, it was removed in 2006. Age limit, the remaining safety net, has been removed. Which other safety net is there now? Because the challenge we have, Dr. Chris...
Removed by Europeans.
Yeah, it was removed by MPs who picked 230 million. I don't want to go there. You know where you counted the money from. So what I'm saying, there is no safety net. And now the situation we have, term limits off, age limits off, killing of Ugandans by unknown people. Now by default, we have martial law. Recruiting LDUs is martial law. Having soldiers patrolling the streets is actually now martial law, and having curfew in place without legislation by parliament. So the situation we have, the Dugu moderator, my close to namesake, is that the whole country now is like in a casino. When you're in a casino...
You're gambling.
Yes. On the American roulette.
The Russian roulette.
You always keep hoping that the number you have put your bet on will come. So people are living by hope, day by day, and it's a very risky way of living. I would have been happy if President Museveni had started showing Dr. Chris Barumos around the country that this would be the next president. It is healthy for the country. But the way we are operating is suicidal. This is the same president that appoints the Electoral Commission. This is the same government, Opondo, you know where you produce ballot papers from. When the Electoral Commission, their ballot papers is landing at Ntama airport, also the one of Opondo is arriving. Before the Electoral Commission distributes the ballot papers to Pade, this one already has it in Kanungu. So the whole election is a sham. This is a military regime.
So we are not supposed to refer to the election?
No, the mayor is in office, is totally helpless. He's seeing Dr. Chris ask whether the mayor came to the office by the ballot. No.
By the gun? By
the gun, no. He's there in the office, the commander-in-chief is talking to the ED directly. You hear the ED is commissioning a borehole.
This information.
Yes.
Tomorrow he is touring Kampala. He's carrying sacks of monies. He has not gone through the proper channels of cases here where we have a budget, we have mechanisms of accrediting those organizations which are supposed to receive the money. So he's going here to open up Chiseka Market. He's going to Nakasero. He's going to meet border, matatu operators, and what, literally, actually, he's going to act as the Lord Mayor tomorrow.
Yeah, but that one again, the minister, the president has his vote that we are, I sit in the Finance and Budget Committee. We appropriate money for the presidency,
to
for
carry sacks of
presidential pledges and donations. I'm not their spokesperson. That is Ofono Opondo's job. But the point...
Is it a slush fund?
The point I'm saying is, we are in a casino. We cannot predict what next number will come. President Museveni may have his goods and bads. Each one can analyze depending on how he's feeling. But the fact is, we need, at 56 years, to know that at 75 years, my father is going to die. Who will take over the home? There is total confusion. There is total confusion in this country.
Okay.
It's a snooker. Actually, in pool, we call it a snooker. You don't know what next.
I'm going to take that question to Chairman Mao. The question of lack of the capacity for Ugandans to predict whether next year or 5 years from now we shall have a new leader, because we now think that we shall have the same even after an election. To what extent does that pose, a problem for the stability of this country?
I don't think the question is about whether we know who is the next president. The question is more about the rules of determining how we should have the next president, and with the certainty that the rules will not be changed in the middle of the game. Those are the challenges. I've said here before that Ugandans now feel like a drunkard's cockerel. You don't know what time the drunkard is coming home. You don't know when you will have appetite to eat chicken. When you see him advancing towards the knife, you wonder what is going to happen. We have to overcome an uncertainty. That is the essence of a rule-based society. Now, when we talk about the hope Ugandans had from '86, and the adherents of the NRM will excuse me, there are places where Yoweri Museveni was received with joy. Of course, he used sectarianism, he stigmatized northern Uganda, heaped the entire collective guilt on one part of the country, divided the country. But for me, who never really believed that he was going to deliver what he claimed to be carrying, because I never saw the DNA of democracy in him. We really thought that 1995 was bringing a kind of constitution where Ugandans have some minimum consensus. Democracy can only take root if it is practiced. You cannot keep disrupting it, and then you think you are really building democracy. And democracy is about trust. Actually, it does not matter what sort of leader we have, as long as the rules are clear that this is how this leader is checked, and these are the institutions that balance the power of that leader. Ultimately, the biggest problem of Uganda, we are calling it leadership, but we must settle the political questions. It is those political questions that are standing in the way of all the noble goals that have been set before us by this government. I believe it is possible to achieve middle income. I believe it is possible for Uganda to become a superpower. I believe it is possible for Uganda. I mean, amidst all the mess, Makerere is still very highly ranked, in spite of the bad stories that we have. Ugandan professionals are still very highly rated. When I attend international, my colleagues who are lawyers here know that when we go for meetings of lawyers, even regionally and internationally, Ugandan lawyers are very highly rated. Ugandan civil servants, even those who are in the World Bank, are very highly respected. The doctors in Uganda are among the best. So we just need to have, to get rid of this, I don't know whether the word is casinocracy. There's such a word where you have casinoism, where everybody is uncertain. In other words, you only have odds. I believe that as long as I'm guaranteed minimum as a citizen, if I want to organize, I'm not going to be disrupted. Okay. Now look at Miss Edith Byanyima. You have a small...
I'll come back to that.
No, I'm just making it as an example. You have a small cottage industry. You actually want to enjoy the life of a private citizen. Somebody drags you by force into politics. So very soon we are going to have constituencies where you have 50,000 candidates. Because now everybody thinks that the only way to fight for your rights is to be a politician. To be in politics. Many of us would actually prefer to do other things.
Private and... Okay.
That is what your president also used to say, that he went to the bush because he wants to farm in peace.
Okay. Honorable Salam Musumba, there are a number of things. Some people have referred to the issue of... Let's listen to Honorable Salam. The question of patriotism, the question of nationalism, then the issue of lack of unity and all that. Do you think that we can... What can be done to can I say, to revitalize it, or to try and rejuvenate it, inject some life into patriotism, nationalism, non-sectarianism?
No, you don't have to be taught you're who you are. You don't have to be schooled into patriotism. You are who you are, and once you're comfortable in your skin, you're comfortable with your neighbor. That's what it means to live in a community. Now, what has broken this community, this communing? It is theft, it is greed, it is unfair and unjust distribution of the national wealth. It's robbery. If I took you to independence, the constituent parts of Uganda, the groups that constituted Uganda, are they here anymore? Where are they? But now we have one group of fellows who have just hijacked everything and thrown everybody away. Buganda is fighting to have its space. Acholi is fighting to have its visibility. Busoga is gambling with itself. This guy is from Tororo. If they did not have the remains of Tenga Dollar,
is that
yes, they would be lost and not found. And what do? They run to Kampala to step all over everybody when they know that they have nothing back home.
Is that what OO is doing?
You see, we have a group that have hijacked the country that are questionable. That is why you see people who come into the fray. If you ask, where are they from? Just ask yourself, who are they and where are they from? Half the group will not tell you. If the Bagandas were to Kulanya, they would tell you their grandfathers of 5 generations. They won't. They are just made by NRM, and they live by NRM, and they will die by NRM. And so, the cohesion, the social glue that we need, to build a country, we must step back and find out who made Uganda what it is, the constituent parts that made Uganda. And that's why I always support federal, and I still do. Because that gives you identity before you come here to steal all our resources. The guys stealing our resources are faceless, are nameless. You can't trace them 5 generations back. They were made here yesterday because of fighting here for our things. Soon you will find Southern Sudan, you will find somebody here. Soon you will find Zaire, Congo here. Soon you are going to find all sorts of Somalis here. So the entire question, everybody has lost interest in this project called Uganda, except the people who have acquired the machines to hold us all at ransom, who have acquired the capacity to abuse, to emasculate all the institutions. Because look at OTT yesterday. If you asked these guys who call themselves doctor, and you ask them, what are you taxing in OTT? Every textbook, even if you went just to Livingstone and Ord, I'm sure you read that one. Just a mere Livingstone and Ord will teach you basic taxation. But you had an entire chorus of the so-called NRM guys saying that we have taxation on just sending money, on all sorts of things. So you just wonder, what can bring us together? Is it religion? No. Religion has lost the social glue to bring us together. Is it ethnicity? For as long as you are not in the eating class or in the ruling class, there's no social glue even amongst the OOs.
Citizenship.
So, citizenship is I think...
That we are all Ugandans.
We are only Ugandans when we have a passport. I'm only a Ugandan whenever I go out. But here, Uganda, they describe me as a Msoga. They describe me as an FDC. Nobody sees me as a citizen. That's why when I came from Arua, there were these guys of CFC who had come actually to attack the destiny. SFC, CFC. Oh, they sound so much like environmental acids, but SFC, SFC, yes, they sound so much like that. So these guys were making up their minds whether to attack me, and I was just seated on the veranda. Okay. So the whole gist of me being a citizen, I feel more of a citizen when I feel more of a citizen, a global citizen, when I'm walking on the streets of London. Okay. I know that the man I will run to is a policeman. I feel more comfortable on the streets of New York.
Is it that populous?
So, for me, even going home, I'm always looking over my shoulder, who is going to kill me? I never feel that sense of security, the sense of happiness. And as I told you, tomorrow as you drive downtown, look at the Mpenkoni guys. They are so stressed. They are so looking like the
watching over their shoulders every minute.
So we are in the same
just 30 seconds?
Yeah, just a quick one on that issue.
Of citizenship?
Yes, it's very, very important. Because let's not gloss over it. Since we are talking about independence, let me tell you this. I want us, if we are to have a genuine conversation about this, the theories of state formation and the history we have gone through, and if you ask Ugandans today, do we have a nation called Uganda? If you are to interrogate that issue, you discover there isn't that country. We are yet to get a nation called Uganda. So because you cannot be a citizen unless you have established a nation. You cannot be a genuine citizen unless you have that nation. Let me ask you this. Let's move together and conduct a census. I'm sorry. It can be survey, opinion poll, or a referendum, whatever. Region by region. On the issue of the secession. Those who support it. Those who would want to advance a secession agenda, you start from the center here, Uganda.
Would it be legal?
Since independence, they have clamored for that. You go to Western Nile, then those who are clamoring, who are agitating for the Nile Republic. You go to Busongola, those who want the Gira Republic. You go to all these other parts of Uganda. People want to dismember Uganda.
Okay.
And just on citizenry.
Yes.
Just in citizenry.
Yes.
I think
you have a right of reply after.
Salam said is important. We have Ugandans like Norbert Mao, who has not been allowed to participate in election. And we have non-Ugandans who are in Ugandan parliament. We have 3 non-Ugandans in the national parliament of Uganda. So those whom we know, they are Ugandans, we can appoint even the graveyards of their grandparents are not allowed participation. The 22,000 refugees that were chased from Tanzania, they were all given national IDs in Uganda.
And passports.
And passports.
In fact,
So who are those non-Ugandans in the Ugandan parliament?
Any Sen MP, any Sen president, the first thing that must be done is to recall all the Ugandan national passports and to recall all the national IDs. This thing of saying we have 40 million is fake. People are entering every day. They come on trailers, go to the cattle corridors, the next day they get a national ID. We cannot be 40 million. We need to revisit all these things.
Okay. Now you have a plate full. Now, please let's go for a break. When we come back, I will start with you to respond to some of the issues raised. Let's go for that break right now. Back from the break. This is the Frontline, this 4th of October 2018. The panel is a full one. Gentlemen and lady, we are back on air. And before we went into the break, the question of citizenship had arisen, and I thought that you should respond to some of these issues, controversial as they are turning. Also, give us your view whether you think that the issue of patriotism, nationalism, or national cohesion is something that can be built, or what needs to be done so that these values are inculcated in our people and grown.
Well, it is always easy to scapegoat. Honorable Odongoto is making 20 years if he completes this term.
As
will
MP.
be make as MP.
I will complete.
I will be, yes, I said if you
No, I will complete.
Yes, you will.
He wants you to say when he completes.
When he wants a by-election.
You want a by-election?
Let me make my point.
By what means?
It is surprising that he's raising the issue of citizenship here. He has spent 17 years in Parliament. I would have expected him by now, especially the fact that he comes from the second largest party in Parliament, to have even brought a modest proposal by way of legislation, by way of a bill. How do we strengthen immigration and our documentation of citizens? He hasn't done so, but he is now choosing to say there are non-citizens in the Parliament of Uganda. I would dare him. He goes tomorrow, next week. He raises it on the floor of Parliament that, Madam Speaker, I raise this matter of national concern. There are the following 3 members of Parliament.
Point of order.
Point of order. There are the following 3 members of Parliament who are non-citizens of Uganda. There I would say Odongo Toko is very serious. But let me go to the other point. I agree with Honorable Salam that the glue is not there, especially when you look at the way FDC is collapsing. Actually, there's no glue. There's no glue. So I agree with you,
Very cheeky.
my sister, that there's no glue to keep people together. We need to add more glue, maybe of cassava or what, so that even small entities like FDC can keep together. Because if FDC, a small entity, can't keep together, how then do you expect 53 ethnicities or tribes? I would want to
Actually,
there
are even more than 60.
Yes, I would want to advise the Lord Mayor to read the origin of the state and the law, to appreciate state formation, how we can build. The Lord Mayor keeps coming on this show and talking about lack of consensus and so on and so forth. Yes, lack of building consensus is a continuous process. And it's not true that when we have consensus, we shall not have tension. Look at what's going on around the world. How many years has it taken to build consensus around the major religions of the world? There was a time when popes were being dragged from the vestry and killed. You have read the history of England, Cromwell, and so on. You have read America that you are quoting. How many presidents have been shot and killed while in office? The fact that Americans have had their constitution for over 200 years, why were they unable to amend? Because they did not want to grant blacks and women franchise. The fact that you have consensus does not mean the system will be free of tension. The fact that you have tension, strong tension like the one we currently have, but the ground is able to hold the tension, means that the system is stable. I have said on this show before that the other chairman, Mao, used to say that when you hear the sky rumbling and the ground is not sinking, you know that the ground is stable, the ground is strong. The fact that we have all this tension, but the NRM has run the course 32 years without major breakdown, means that perhaps 60%, 70% of Ugandans agree, buy into the consensus, the view of the NRM. Now, if you think that the NRM is not running the country well, at least one thing is for sure. I know our colleagues in the opposition would want to use age limit. No, you made your point. Term limit. When we had term limit, how many MPs did the opposition have in parliament? If the presence of term limit would give opposition the leeway, how many seats? Okay.
We did not have parties then.
Well, and between 2005 and December last year, we had age limit. How many MPs did Madam FDC bring in parliament? How many chairpersons did you have in the districts? And so on and so forth. I am saying you are trying to use a scapegoat.
No.
You are trying to use a scapegoat. The real check in our system is the popular vote, is the general election. Unless you are
regardless
saying,
of the quality.
Now
their issue is that the quality is wanting.
Then the issue should be, how come previously Honorable Sarah Musumba won Bugabra South, and subsequent to that she did not? Was that the issue?
Even the Lord Mayor, you can ask even the Lord Mayor.
Was that the issue of quality, or was that the issue that what she was standing for?
Maybe you forgot.
What she was standing on? People of Kamuli, first of all, Bugabra South and Kamuli municipality did not buy into her narrative
it's a genuine question.
Yes, I agree. It may be genuine.
Before, if I may answer you,
yes.
Before 2006, there were no militarized machines at my doorstep.
Were you winning all the seats?
What would you say? What would you say about the Lord Mayor's victory? Huge victory in the center.
Because the center
is the
center, and it wins by defiance.
May you allow me complete my? Can I complete mine?
Now 30 seconds, because you had exhausted your time anyway.
I am very proud that in Uganda today we have children or people of non-known meticulous previous background who by their own effort have been able to make it to the front line, to the front desk. I don't know the grandfather of Bariomusi, but for me, if Bariomusi's grandfather, if his father was a peasant somewhere, nobody, and he's now a medical doctor, he's a member of parliament, he's a minister, I think that we should be proud.
The land of opportunity.
It is a land of opportunity. Good. I don't know how many generations Barack Obama can count. And therefore, in fact, those of you whose grandparents were the Kabakas of Buganda, or the sector workers of Uganda, but you are unable to even qualify to get a University Manila paper, and it means that you don't qualify to occupy the places you are in.
Okay.
And therefore, for me, the fact that 90% of our members of parliament are people who are self-made,
the so-called
yes,
first generation,
is a demonstration that actually our independence, our system is working to bring people from the back of beyond, and they are now on the front.
The back of beyond.
Back of
now
beyond.
That is something I'm
And then do what with the beyond?
Yes. For me,
Honorable Mayor, you wanted to respond to OO. You have that right.
Yeah, I listened to him when he was quoting Chairman Mao, the statement he made that when you hear the sky is roaring and the ground is not shaken, you know that everything is okay.
Not everything.
The ground is firm. And he wanted to draw parallels with the systems here. And I shuddered and I said, what is this? At the beginning of this show, you told us, you informed us that the theme of this year's independence, standing tall in the midst of the storm. Because you didn't complete it. In the midst of the heavy storm.
No.
We should stand tall.
Standing tall,
itself,
celebrating.
No, that theme itself is suggestive of a crisis.
Well,
it actually, listen to this. It's marks of.
I'm telling you, you haven't understood me. You didn't understand me. I don't expect you perhaps to understand me better than that.
What did you mean?
I said, standing tall, celebrating 50 years. That we have survived.
Over 56 years.
We have survived. We have survived. We are unlikely to drown.
No, sir.
This is what I say.
So exactly, that's what I say. If you are saying we are unlikely to drown,
yes, of course, there are people who drown.
You see, it means we are wallowing in murky waters. Actually, we are almost drowning, but we must.
True.
So
we
must stand it tall.
We may be in murky water, but I'm saying all indicators are that we are surviving.
You see,
let me bring in now the other limb of one of those challenges that has been a major discussion point. Let me start with Honorable Mao. The issue of corruption. The 56 years that we talk about, one of the major things that have been talked about, of course, even from the 60s, it was there, but now it's really covering a lot of our media spaces and all that, the issue of corruption. Do you think that there is still some hope or a glimmer of it that we can say going forward there is some hope to redress this at this point, or is it also a failed promise, a failed attempt?
Charles, there was a time when one would expect that this regime could be renovated. Unfortunately, it would now be like whitewashing an irredeemably cracked wall. Because the corruption is now systemic. I have friends who tell me when they make bids that you must pay a percentage of what you are likely to earn in advance so that you can win.
Tender.
I have been told that people around the president are now agents of the so-called foreign investors. I saw our chairman of Wakiso tussling it out with someone. Therefore, we cannot talk about corruption mildly. It has become cancerous. Unfortunately, the approach being taken by the government to tackling corruption is like applying Vaseline on a cancer. Something that has got to be excised and cut out is instead being massaged by appointing a handful of people in State House. I keep trying that helpline which the president gave, by the way, most of the time you can hardly get through. One time you should try it live here on the front line and see whether it works. Some people around the president are so corrupt that when you shake their hands, you must count your fingers immediately.
After shaking?
They may make off with one finger or two. It is very, very important that corruption becomes a major issue of discussion. And because it is so rife at the top, and I've said before, when I stood up in Parliament as a 30-year-old member of Parliament and said fish rots from the head, some of the people with whom we are now in opposition were defending the president and the system, saying, how dare you?
Like who?
The president is above board. And I said, that doesn't change the fact that fish rots from the head. It is a universal principle that can be applied in any situation. I personally believe that as we go to celebrate this glorious day, we celebrate because it is a milestone. And, you know, the Lord Mayor said something which we probably didn't reflect on. When he said, you know, the colonialists, what you saw was what you got.
No pretense.
No sugar-coated quinine. They told you it is quinine and it is bitter and you're going to swallow it whether you like it or not.
Chloroquine.
And if you defy it, they will deport you to their capital.
Yes, or within your country. Of course, even these ones now are doing it. It's like in the story of these children of Israel. They crossed the Red Sea, of course. You could say they got independence. But then they started worshipping false gods. This is also the problem that we could be having in Uganda. I think the glue is there in Uganda. It can be found.
There is still some hope.
Ugandans per se, by the way, don't have a big problem. When I go to Apa, the poor Madis and poor Cholis actually have no problem. They trade with each other. They intermarry. But someone somewhere wants to make it appear as if there's a big problem. The north and south, among the people, actually, there is no big problem. We have Buganda pub there. The Kabaka gave our people land here as the war was raging. So what is the problem? You could only say those post-colonial leaders are also applying the same divide and rule that the colonialists used.
Okay.
And above all, corruption is now a weapon for dominating others. To the extent that now we can even talk of the geography of corruption. Not just the history of corruption, but
the axis,
the morphology of corruption, the anatomy of corruption. And that is something which should alarm us.
Okay.
I believe very strongly that it is not possible right now for this regime to do self-cleansing.
Dr. Baramusi, that sounds an indictment against your government, because you put in place so many structures, you know, appoint people, establish offices, establish laws, enact them in order to fight corruption. But then Chairman Mao and some people here say that you cannot cleanse yourself of corruption. And indeed, you know that corruption has been your biggest stain as far as the NRM is concerned within your last 32 years?
In whose eyes? Maybe in your eyes.
In everybody's eyes.
First
The president has always said it. We have a council of corruption. The president has said it himself.
Like we have always said, we do not condone corruption and we condemn it in all forms. And also...
Apart from condemning, beyond condemning, like OO said, behind, beyond.
Why don't you wait that I talk? First of all, when you
can't even quote me properly. At the back of beyond.
At the back of beyond the
First of all, when you talk of corruption,
you can't even misquote him properly.
We are analyzing the 56 years. So do not create an impression as if the word corruption was invented when NRM came into power. Corruption has existed. And
we are talking about the magnitude, Doctor. I have said even in the 60s, you know about the issue of the gold scandal.
Yes.
There was corruption, but we are saying that the magnitude, there is no doubt, there is a fact that now it's either more talked about or whatever, you can speak to that, but you cannot deny that.
I'm saying corruption has been the problem in society, even before independence here in Uganda, even the colonial period, which some of you are glorifying and admiring. Even in the biblical times, corruption was there. And corruption manifests different forms. If, for instance, you look at the 70s during Amin's time.
Magendoism.
Absolutely. So under the NRM, what has happened is that we have provided a space where we can talk about corruption openly. And also, what we credit the NRM government is that we have put in place institutions to check and handle this issue of corruption. We never had the office of the IGG. That office came under the NRM leadership. We have specialized the committees in Parliament, for instance, chaired by the opposition members of Parliament that are supposed to provide checks and balances and examine the Auditor General's reports. The Auditor General is a very strong department of government. Government has established the Anti-Corruption Court and many others. So there are institutions to handle these issues of corruption. I wanted to challenge the Lord Mayor, for instance. He's the head of Kampala. Has he eliminated the corruption in Kampala? Chairman Nobody Mao was the chairman of Guru. Did he eliminate corruption? So corruption cuts across.
It's the blood running in the veins.
So why haven't you eliminated it as the head, the political head of Kampala? So the point I am making is that corruption is not only a problem of one party, it's a problem of our society here in Uganda. Not necessarily. So whether you talk of NRM, whether you talk of opposition parties, corruption is a challenge across, and we must fight it.
Doctor, Honorable Ma was just referring to Wakiso. Wakiso district is led by a DP chairperson. I think the entire council is DP, maybe the majority is DP. What are we hearing about Wakiso? The Lord Mayor here, before he became the Lord Mayor of Kampala, he used the phrase that Kampala City Council was the den of thieves. Have you wiped out the ones in the den?
Okay.
So
you wind up because I need to bring in the mayor and
so the point I was making.
Have I managed to throw out all the thieves?
Yes.
You
have joined them?
No, they tagged me at one point. They had to evict me corruptly. So they had to use the very corrupt system to evict me from store. What are you talking about?
That we should not localize the corruption.
Dr. Bariomis, can I say just something?
Yes.
I think we are not expecting that there will be a day when there will be zero corruption. I think scientifically that is an ideal. We are trying to assess your commitment and the efforts vis-a-vis the results. And I think our criticism is fair.
Yes, and I'm saying that corruption cuts across society here. I know how you struggled in the north to challenge the civil society organizations which themselves were exhibiting signs of corruption, the way they were implementing programs in the north.
I am the one who told the president that fuel for helicopters was being sold on the black market, that there were ghosts in the army because they used the army payroll to rig my elections and dead soldiers even purported to vote. I have been a faithful campaigner against corruption.
Okay, thank you very much. So the point I was making is that that corruption is a
so
vice.
Accusing me is not your defense.
No, I was saying
counter accusation has never been a defense.
No. The point I was bringing that you tended to argue as if corruption is an issue of NRM, and I have challenged you that you have been a chair of a district. Did you eliminate corruption? And the answer is no. So our districts and the units headed by the opposition, are they corrupt free? And the answer is no. So
okay, the thieves there are NRM.
Now you hear it. So corruption is a vice that is eating our society, whether the government or civil society and across. And all of us should be determined and committed to fighting corruption. So the key question is the government, the NRM government, committed to fighting corruption? And the answer is yes, in capital letters.
Okay, yes, in capital letters. Honorable Odonga Oto, you have heard what the doctor is enumerating. Can we stamp out corruption, or can we reduce it?
I think from a jurisprudential perspective, the system this government has adopted is wrong. We have been in all capitals of the world, in New York, France, United Kingdom. The government does not walk away from the responsibility of health, education, transport, religion. Those four. Public transport is very efficient. The health system operates. The education system, the state has a control in it. Now, if you read the book of Joseph Stiglitz, it's an old book, The Discontents of Globalization. In the preface,
the World Bank guy.
The World Bank guy. It's Stiglitz.
Globalization and its discontents.
In the preface, you don't have to go through all the whole book. You know, Ofono, you may have to be at the media center talking those things. So the book may just read the preface. He said,
I know you just wanted to
no,
tell our viewers that we have read this book.
He says he wishes that countries like specifically Ethiopia and Uganda that has adopted the extreme of privatization, he wishes to live long to see what it will metamorphosize into. So we have adopted a reckless privatization model. You fall down here in front of Nando's, there's no ambulance, no police, you have to call a relative or a border, you have to give your phone. There is no social protection. The schools, government schools, totally wasted. Transport system, you're on a border. The other day, the president was launching a bicycle. I have never seen him on it again. So the society does not provide for the weak. Now, in such a system, the weak will do all means to get bribes. A police officer will have to ask for a bribe from a vehicle driver because tomorrow, if the son is sick, he has to solve his own problem.
So Odongo just told us, alleged on this show, that MPs got 250 million.
He said 230.
230 million. Are those the weak? By your own?
No, that's a good analysis. But the point I'm saying, the society should... The society... The society should protect the weakest. If we don't protect the weakest in the society, then corruption will stem from down. Now, in this country, everything is privatized, including religion, which is very dangerous. In United Kingdom, Opondo, you would agree with me. If a church collapses, they will build it day and night, even with fog lights. The state has its hands deep in religion. When America is going to war, all the pastors, TD Jakes and all the others, they are praying for the soldiers to be brave in Iraq because the state has a deep hands in religion. But in Uganda, because of the recklessness of privatizing religion, you may even knock a wooden kiosk home. You find another church open. So these are the extremes of privatization. That is why corruption is now becoming systemic. Now, having said that, my namesake, Odongtho, I want to challenge you. I have sat in the Committee of Finance and Budget. Even the whole Parliament of Uganda does not know how much money has been printed and is in this economy. I can talk with authority. We don't know. The other day I raised that we need to go and physically inspect the basement of Bank of Uganda to count and see how much money has been printed. I know they printed the 20,000 from Kenya in Delaru. You know where they print the 50,000 from.
They are now going to start printing officially.
Now the latest, they want to start printing now from Uganda. So every time they are bringing money into Uganda, 1 billion, someone carries this sack of 50,000 Uganda shillings note. The dollar, again as a shilling, will never be stable. Just as of today, BOU has increased the CBR to 10. Now, if you go to Rwanda, you go to Burundi, you feel at pain, a small economy like Burundi, you will change a shilling to 300 Burundian francs. An economy like Kenya, you change 1 shilling to 28. A smaller economy like Rwanda, you change 1 Uganda shillings to 150. What is the problem with the Ugandan shilling? That it is always at 3,200, 3,800.
Okay.
It is because of corruption. Some people print money alongside the money printed by the government.
Good. I want to bring in Honorable Lord Mayor and Honorable Salam Musumba, but they will come in after the break. Let's go for a break right now. And then we come back and start winding up. Gentlemen and lady, welcome back from the break. This is the last break we have had, and we are now right into the last segment for this edition of the Frontline. Lord Mayor, before we went into the break, we had I want us to wind up on the issue of corruption and give it a way forward, whether, in your view, there is some hope. Mao paints says it is an irredeemably cracked wall and nothing can now be done about it. Let's speak from you. And of course, Badamunsi had said that there is hope. There are a number of organ setup structures, the laws, the bodies, persons that can actually check corruption.
And the commitment by government.
Well, we are used to that rhetoric. And I'm sure, actually, I don't know whether there is even value addition to the subject. I'm sorry to say so.
You have to make a record.
Yeah, because...
Continue making a record.
Because this is what we have always said time and again. The viewers who have watched this show, what he has said, year in, year out, they are singing the same song. There is the commitment from government, the will is there, the institutions are in place, blah, 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 what. So that is the rhetoric we're used to. But one thing I should say here, at the risk of repeating myself again, because this is what is on record, time and again we have said, when you have a citizen which is not empowered, it's a far cry. It's, I think, actually self-delusion to think that you can fight corruption. When you have a situation, because you are talking of these institutions, you look at this, the legal instrument, including the Constitution. If you are talking about the judiciary, which is supposed to hold to account, to hold those holding executive powers to account, Article 126 says they derive their mandate from the people. And the people are not empowered. They don't have those powers. So how do you expect the judiciary to call the executive to order using the people's mandate when the people themselves do not have those powers? The same applies to all these institutions you're talking about, the IGG. They're supposed to derive the mandate to the people. Because ultimately, the citizenry, the people, must have the capacity to call to order these institutions charged with the duty of handling accountability issues. But if they are in disarray, they don't have the powers, there isn't much that you can do. So the crisis we are facing right now, the people are not empowered. Secondly, you have in place a system which is anchored on nothing else but impunity. It is impunity reigning all over. Even when you, I remember in the 8th Parliament when we had overwhelming evidence. I'll cite this case, which I remember we handled in Parliament. We were there with my brother, Honorable Dongoto. Mr. Museveni coming to address Parliament and said, yes, I called for the files from the DPP implicating his brother Salim Saleh in some corruption scandals. And he said he looked at the file and he was convinced that what the explanation given by Saleh was justified, that he used the money, I think, to do some social infrastructure development in northern Uganda. That explanation he gave. And I've heard justifying corruption, saying, you can build an economy on
Are some of them here, or is
on this show? I've listened to them on this very show, saying that actually an economy can be well built on a corrupt system, and they are developing those theories.
You name people who have said that.
I know, you know all of them. I don't want to mention people's names who are not here. So the point is,
it would be unfair.
The point is, you have a leader who glorifies corruption. You have a leader who comes into office through corrupt system processes. He rigs elections. And, of course, you know, this has spillover effects. That's why they have been arm twisting him in Parliament. Even these issues of amendment of the Constitution, they are asking him, gentlemen.
Pay up.
Yes, we are giving you a blank check. What are we getting in return?
Okay.
You pay as you go.
They manipulate the Constitution to reward themselves.
Cash on delivery.
Yes, to say we are extending. Okay, I will, with or without the judges, we are going to amend the Constitution so that you extend your tenure in Parliament in return for what you have given him.
Okay.
Which country is that?
Honorable Salam Musumba, on the issue of corruption, is there hope?
Well, corruption is endemic.
Honorable Chris says it is not as
It's
bad
so
as...
endemic and so vulgar. It has reached a really an obscene level. You have political corruption. It's the biggest form of corruption we have. I hear MPs no longer pass anything without being paid. I hear.
Is that so, Honorable Chris?
They must be looked into.
I'm not aware.
They must be massaged. They must be cajoled. They never attend any workshop for empowerment.
I will not pay anything.
I'm sorry. Let me borrow 1 second from your time. If this, I have the feeling, gut feeling, if Mr. Museveni was to bribe these MPs, if there is anything that blocks his stay in power, and it's within the 10 commandments, and he gave something to the MPs, they can amend the Bible.
Nothing is beyond.
That is far-fetched.
No.
They can amend
It's
it.
how frightening it is. It is so frightening. This political corruption is the biggest form of corruption.
I insulted you?
Because it underlines the bedrock of corruption. You have judicial corruption. Anybody who has been to court like I have, it's a nightmare, guys. It's a nightmare. There's executive corruption. You know, the other day the Honorable Speaker was complaining about somebody changing the law between Parliament and State House. You can imagine that level of corruption. I hear even on the switchboard. There is corruption even on the switchboard. You will never be able to speak to the big man on the switchboard. I know there is administrative corruption. The way they change, they use statutes to overrun the law. Anybody working in local government knows that. How the Constitution has been subverted using statutory regulations or inferior law, subsidiary law. You have legislative corruption. You know, it's corruption through and through. Through and through, and everybody has their cohort of corruption. They have pockets of corruption. Everybody's guarding their territory of corruption. You know, you watch people who visit State House and you can tell, even ordinarily you can tell that one has made a pass for this one to achieve the other one. And you just see total corruption. It's really sad. It's terrible. It's sad that this is an incorrigible state as far as corruption is concerned. If they had their way, they could even corrupt the sun.
Okay. Now, we need to do a roundup, and I'm going to start with you, Honorable Salam. We are now into our last few minutes. Will you be attending the Tuesday celebration anywhere in any part of the country? And by the way, maybe as we wind up, also just tell us in 20 seconds, what type of Uganda do you want?
The one I've missed all these years. I would have loved to live in a Uganda.
Describe it.
Where the Uganda I grew up in is a Uganda I miss. Because unlike many of these guys here, for me I found the tail end of goodness. Everything happened, began to die when I was of age. And therefore I have the smell and the taste of what it was. Because even under Idi Amin, when things were so bad, we could afford to go to school, and that's why we are here, educated. Today, what the guys are able to offer ministers' children, we were able to have as civil servants' children. And therefore, for me, I miss that Uganda. Okay. My father did not have to steal to take me to school. I know these Oponos steal in vouchers, they steal in all sorts of things, just to be able to take their children to school. Our parents had the honor not to do that.
Okay.
And I wish the Oponos too would, so that their children too would be proud of a government their father served in. I haven't been invited anywhere. You know, even the districts are dead. They don't celebrate independence. Not even
inviting a chairperson emeritus.
They even forgot.
Okay.
And even this administrative corruption, when you look at, they don't know, they think that independence is an NRM function. They don't know it's a state function. But let me tell you, today was a good day. We were having the 25th memorial of the late Archbishop Chiwanuka.
Oh.
And that's where I came from.
Okay.
And also today is St. Francis Day.
Oh.
That's what keeps me smiling.
Good.
Nothing to do with this.
Honorable Lukwago, the Uganda you want, can you describe it? Can you see it? And is there any function? You are a mayor, so tell us whether you have been invited to any, whether you will attend any.
Well, before I come to that, I would say...
1 minute.
Yes, the Uganda I would want to see is that country that can offer an opportunity to me to realize my full potential, my dream, where there is justice, fairness, equity. All the resources are shared equitably. A country that is built on consensus. A country where Ugandans are empowered. The citizenry can take charge of their destiny. They can be in charge of the affairs of the state. They can chart a way forward for their country. A country where the leaders are answerable to their, what they call subjects. But what we have today is this master-slave relationship. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Have you been invited?
So I want to see that. But ultimately, overall, what I would want to see is constitutional stability. I mentioned before the judges in this age limit case when we were in Mbali. I told them, you see, you'll agree with me. The root cause of political instability in this country is constitutional instability. And I believe in that.
Okay.
So in this particular case, as we focus on this independence, as you are talking of your theme of standing tall and what not, let us swallow our pride. Let us appreciate the reality that we are sitting on a time bomb. There is an implosion in waiting. So this country, you can only save it by telling your boss that please, enough is enough.
Okay.
So for
Any invitation?
Any invitation, I thought actually they were calling it off.
Why?
Why? Because here there was a surprise announcement that there will be no carnival in Kampala. Because the independence celebrations have always been preceded by goody in Kampala here.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Whining and dining, dancing. All of a sudden.
But there are a series of functions, I think. Is it from tomorrow? Different.
Where?
I saw
I'm not aware.
Okay. Okay. Honorable Odonga Oto. Describe, Honorable Odonga Oto, describe for us the Uganda you would want to see from 56, and then if you're going to attend any function anywhere for independence.
I, being a former DP, am more of a socialist. I think I grew up in capitalism. I understand capitalism, and some of the DNA probably are in my children. But I want to see Uganda moving left, nationalizing, closing private clinics and hospitals, paying doctors, every doctor 20 million shillings, and they work in government hospitals. I want to see public transport, rail, road, steamer being rejuvenated, because not everything is for profit, but for effectiveness. I want to see a socialist arrangement where people can live happily, not this man-eat-man model of governance. So I'm inclining more towards
the common man's charter.
The socialist orientation, which is more of like center-left, not these hardcore capitalists that a doctor recommends you to his private clinic, yet he's working in a government hospital. Not these hardcore capitalists where a minister travels up country that is going to inspect government programs, he's getting allowances of 1 million per day, yet he's going to visit his girlfriend. You see, these kind of things must really stop. So that is my dream, and I foresee it coming in future. I definitely am very sure that one president at least will die when I'm still alive. So at least I'm going to witness one form of transition, because God has his natural age limit. Now that the Dr. Chris has changed the man-made one.
The death limit.
Yeah, the death limit. So that's what I expect.
Any attendance?
And I also expect to see, we have spent 2 hours here. This is a medical doctor. And yet in the villages, there are traditional birth attendants helping women deliver. So I want to see a country where the doctors would live active politics. This Dr. Chris Barumozi, Dr. Besije, they go to those health centers and help women deliver a little more safely, other than just politicking and doing jobs of politicians. Yeah, they should put on gloves and have some refresher courses.
Let's move. Time is up. Are you invited to any function?
Parliament, yeah.
Are you invited to any function?
I've been invited. I've received an official invitation. They've even given me a packing sticker with a long list of things I should not carry, including a mobile phone. So in that circumstance, I'm not going. Because I will miss my phone.
Dr. Chris, the Uganda you want? The Uganda you want?
Let me start by saying there are doctors who specialize in public policy and public health.
But you're a gynecologist.
And I am one of those.
You're a gynecologist. No. You specialize in the female ward. You know that.
No, my PhD is in the public health, for your information. Okay, first of all, the Uganda that I want is the Uganda where the quality of life continues to improve. And already when you look at our impact indicators, they show that the interventions which we are putting on the ground are clearly resulting into better outcomes. And if we had time, I would tell you, since you are saying I'm a doctor, like life expectancy has improved, mortality rates have come down, and things are improving. And therefore, we are moving there. We are moving there. Like I said earlier on, despite the challenges which we are prepared to address as we move along. On the political side, there is certainty, unless my colleagues live in a different country. Like I am certain that in 2021, we shall have elections. I am certain 2026, we shall have elections at presidential, parliamentary, and local government. You know.
Certainly you are.
So if you are not,
certainly you are going to attend independence somewhere.
He has no option. He has no option.
No. So therefore, there is predictability in terms of governance.
Okay.
If you don't think so, then that's your problem. but there is that certainty which has been put by the constitution. And whoever wants political power has subject himself or herself to the will of the people. That's how Mayor Lukwago became a mayor. That's how my colleagues have been the parliament.
73 years.
Okay.
The president will subject himself to the popular will of the Ugandans. If you market yourself and defeat him, they do it.
Dr. Time.
Yes, so we shall be for independence.
You're going to Chotera.
Yes, and I want to extend an invitation to all my colleagues who are saying they have not been invited. I am now inviting you as a government minister to come and join other Ugandans in celebrating 56 years.
But do they invite like that?
Just casually like that.
Mr. Ofono.
If you are not even need to get an invitation, you should just be there.
So get an invitation.
Yes.
First of all,
the Uganda we want.
National Independence Celebration, public invitation. Yes, the VIPs, members of parliament, they get special cards because we must take care of them. But the general Ugandans are welcome. At the end of this, the districts will organize, sub-counties will organize at their local level when they are able to. The Uganda I want, first of all, I want to correct Odonga Oto, that's Dr. Besige. In order for him to be readmitted to practice medicine, I am told he needs another 4 years of training.
Dr. Chris, yeah?
So I think that's such a tall order for him to go back to. I think let him concentrate in the politics. We hope he succeeds there.
No, we can take him through internship of 1 year and then assess his skills.
Then the Uganda I would want to see a Uganda, read Vision 2040, where we have better roads, we have easy access to clean water, health services, better education, access to education, particularly to the children of the most vulnerable are able. I would want to continue seeing a Uganda where there's opportunity for people like Elias Lukwago. I'm not so sure if any of us here even knows from which village in Masaka he comes from. I am not sure any of us here if we know which schools he went to. He's not like the Namagunga girl. He's not like the Namiriango girl. I don't think the boy. I don't think you can. Yes, I know.
I know that he went to Makerere.
Yes, I think.
But you know that he went to Makerere University Law School.
Yes, the Lord Mayor comes from. I think he must have come from a very obscure primary school, O-level school, A-level school, but was able. Yes, he was able to join Makerere University Law School and is now a Lord Mayor. He has not climbed on anybody's shoulder. He's not using his grandfather's shoulder to claim the Lord Mayorship. That's the Uganda I want. That the men Lukwagos can come from obscure background and they are Lord Mayors, they are ministers, they are presidents of Uganda. That's the Uganda I would want.
Are you going to Chotera?
I will.
Okay.
Unless of course, the Lord Mayor and the VCG obstruct me with
they have never obstructed you before.
The first time we attempted to attend, you know what you said in Irukujiri, that we are here to recommit our faith in the NRM system. Then we had to walk away.
and so,
lastly, Chairman Mao.
I recommit myself.
Let's listen to Chairman Mao.
I recommit my faith to the NRM and the leadership of the NRM all the time. When
your time has expired. Chairman Mao,
even when
50 years of independence, a jubilee.
Even when OO is giving compliments, he must add there some sinister motives.
Chairman Mao, the Uganda you want.
First, it is really remarkable that Honorable Salam Musomba brought up the name of Archbishop Kiwanuka. And if you have time, you should read that pastoral letter of 1960. We need a culture of speaking truth to power. Secondly, renewing Uganda will have to be done from the inside out. It will not be about superhighways and dams and expressways. We must first of all renew the ethical foundation of our country. Small things, the theft in secondary schools. You know, my son comes back and he tells me of this has been stolen, the country needs to be rescued from the inside out. And talking about speaking truth to power, we still have people who we should look up to. So tomorrow I'll be listening to Professor Frederick Sempebwa at a Uganda Human Rights Commission meeting. And I really look forward to listening to people like him. We still have a few ladies and gentlemen like that, you know, people like Joyce Mpanga, Stephen Akabwai, Justice Ogola. Such people are still there.
Okay.
So Uganda is not a hopeless case.
Okay.
And I think the momentum is building.
Are you attending any function?
On Independence Day,
yeah.
I'll happily wait to read the speech, which I can more or less predict. It will open with the insults and chest thumping and so on. But I wish those who will be going to Chotera all the best.
Okay.
And I look forward to the day when Independence Day will be meaningful again.
Thank you, Chairman Mao, the frontliner, Ofono Opondo frontliner, the Honorable Salam Musumba frontliner too, and our guest, the Honorable Dr. Chris Baramusi, Minister for Housing, Honorable Samuel Odonga Oto, Aru County, and the Lord Mayor, Honorable Elias Lukwago. Thanks for making the show this evening, and we really appreciate. And to all Ugandans, by the time we come back next week, hopefully, it will be past the independence celebration. And so we wish all of you, every Ugandan, a merry, successful independence 56, Uganda at 56. Let's celebrate, let's marry together, let's try and see whether we can, recover some of the lost glory and push forward with the blessings that we have got in the last 56 years. Until next week, from the team here at NBS and the entire Frontline team, have a good night and God blessings to all of you. Bye-bye.